All right, guys, and we are back on the Nobody's Famous podcast. We have a very special show today with a very, I want to say, long lost friend. And it's going to be a very special one. I'm here today with the one and the only Basil Zahar. Before I even introduce you to anyone, I'm just going to
Mhm.
start with this, Basil. Your new venture, coaching people and helping them, where you're talking about self love, self worth, uh, life coaching. If I'm asking you, why should I listen to you? What makes you different from all the people that are doing the same thing that you're doing? What makes you different from everybody else?
The Nobody's Famous Podcast.
Good question. Um, to begin, I don't see myself as different from anyone else. What I would say is if you come from a similar background and you're trying to be understood, seen, heard, then I may be able to help in terms of understanding the Arab background a little bit more. In terms of self-love and meditation and whatnot, I do my best to only talk about what I practice myself and what I find beneficial for myself. At the same time, no one person is the same as the other. So a certain type of meditation may work for me, may not work for someone else. I may feel good eating meat. Someone may feel good just being full vegan. So it's different. What I try to do is I try to show people how they think and behave to create an awareness around that, because for you to really change, if you want to change, you got to know what's going on first. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, awesome, awesome. I mean, there will be a lot that we will unpack for sure, and we will see if the if the method will work. Let's put it that way. We'll see if that will work. Um, second question to you, Basil. Your definition
Mhm,
of a healthy relationship.
mhm. In a partnership with your siblings, with your parents, what type of relationship are you defining here?
Well, actually, I wanted to ask like with a significant other. So we'll go.
Okay,
Let's go strong and go with the love side.
okay. I'm gonna answer this based on what a mentor of mine has told me and what I practice daily as well. Um, a healthy relationship is two individuals working for themselves to grow, at the same time being there for one another. To add to that, when you're with someone, what tends to create issues is expectations and desires. Okay. And we all have different forms of communicating. So I think a good aspect of a healthy relationship is being smart in terms of understanding your significant other, how they communicate, how they express themselves, what they like, what they don't like, and to be of service to that person, genuinely, authentically, without needing anything in return. And when you're there, when you're giving and you're supporting, you may or may not receive the same or more or less, but you're providing.
Basil, one more difficult question before I actually introduce you to everyone that's been listening to you. Um,
Sure, hit me.
so imagine I'm one of your clients. Okay,
Mm-hmm,
I'm somebody that came to you and I'm telling you this, uh, Basil, you're a life coach and I'm in trouble. I want you to help
mm-hmm,
me. I'm in financial debt. My girlfriend left
mm-hmm,
me and I'm in a lot of pain. My parents threw me out. I'm summoned to court. What do? And I have no skills to find a job, to put myself to stand back up. What advice would you give to such a person?
Okay, so you're in trouble. You've got issues with your finances. Your girl left you. You've got quit as well. I can't begin to imagine how stressful and difficult that is on you. And to add to that, you don't have the skills to do something for you to work. May I ask how you determine you don't have the skills?
I think this is
How do you determine you're in trouble?
this is a very good question, and kind of one of the things that I always try to touch on the show is people tend to put themselves down a lot and tend to assume that they don't have the skills, or assume that they do not have the ability to use what they have then and there to change their situation. Again, this is very different for many different levels of society, for many different cases. But I'm only saying it as someone who is in despair and someone who is assuming
Fair enough.
and assuming that. And even me, at where I am, sometimes I feel that I don't have the necessary skills to take me to the next step. So if I'm feeling this way, how would somebody in a worse situation feel? You know, I'm considering myself relatively, I'm okay, you know, compared to somebody who might be in a very worse situation. So the reason I say that is
Okay.
probably from a place of despair.
Okay. So if I may answer this or ask you a question, with the question, sorry. When someone goes to war and the war finishes, or when you watch a football game and it's done, what do people talk about after the game, after the war?
The result.
And do people know the ups and downs that went on in that war? The strategy that the general had to win the war, how many times it failed, how many times it succeeded, what he had to learn throughout the way, how many people he lost, how many people he gained?
They assume the facts. It's only until after do they find the true facts. But initially, no, they assume the facts, or they don't even consider them.
So one thing, if I could add to that, one thing that I see with someone in despair, it's their mind is not here right now, thinking of the future, or we're dwelling on the past. And in my humble opinion, you can't know what's going to happen. All you can do is do your very best right now, here. You don't have the skills. We have a lot of different avenues to take and learn. We don't know how to learn, we figure it out. I'll give you an example. I myself have a, let's call it issue, for lack of a better word, with attention span. And I could never finish a book. I could never finish a project. So what I did was I started searching. How do I get something done? How do I do this? How do I get there? And a mentor of mine gave me this app called Pomodoro. I just started using it recently, actually. And this app has a 25-minute timer. You disconnect from the world. 25 minutes, you do what you need to do. 25 minutes done, you have 3 to 5 minute break. You can do whatever you want. Another 25 minutes, you do it 4 times in a row. At the end, done. You take a break. And that gets your mind primed for the future. I don't know if I went off topic here, but there's always a way. There's always a way. And when we're in despair, it's because we're thinking of us. Where am I in this equation? How am I going to get somewhere? What do I do? Whereas when we surrender me, we go like, I'm doing, you know, I'm serving, I'm here. Whoever's here around me now, I'm going to be grateful for that. Whatever roof I have over my head, I'm going to be grateful for that. Whatever I have right now, the shoes I'm wearing, the shower I took this morning, I start to raise myself in a new way. as a parent to myself. It's not easy.
It definitely isn't. But I think that's some good advice. The fact that you can probably use an app to keep your focus, and I think using that, you will be able to do that naturally. It'll come. I kind of want to say that I have selective attention. I like to choose what I like to give my attention to, and the things that I don't like. So yeah, and I think this is that is a very good advice that you gave. That if you can apply it to almost everything in that you're doing, then you can change the situation. And also to comment on your final point, which was about appreciating where you are in the current moment, rather than thinking what you're going to do in the future, or thinking about the mistakes that you had done in the past. Is also another good piece of advice, because we tend to go throughout the day just doing things and not enjoying the something that we have right now. Or if you, for example, and you have some great food in front of you, you tend to maybe eat it quickly because you need to get on to the next thing, so you don't really enjoy the moment. And this is, I won't get into that now, because there's a lot of reasons why that may be. You know, on all different levels of society, people at different levels will feel the different sense of urgency. That's good advice, Basil. And I want to say that, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off. I don't mean to be advising here. It's a way I try my best to live my life. Every person's different, you know. You got to eat something quick to get somewhere. You have responsibilities. Go ahead, by all means. You know?
Yeah. And this is the point where I have decided that I would like to formally introduce you. I apologize for hitting you with three difficult questions, but I thought that we should set the tone for the type of show that this would be, and I knew that you would be able to kind of answer, and I will continue to challenge you, as I believe this is something that you have done to yourself as well, as the audience will realize. So moving on to who is Basil Zahar. I want to set the stage here, and you sent me a very in-depth bio and in-depth answers to your life and to your journey. And you said that your school years have affected your upbringing, affected the way you are. It made you, as you say, a coward that ultimately made you afraid of not doing things. You ran away from doing things. You would start something, not finish it, which then in turn caused you in university to go a little bit, in a crazy spiral. You got into substances, doing things like maybe to the max, and then moving on to your work career, which you said was not great as well, because you were changing jobs all the time. And then when you moved to Australia in 2019, you said that was a wrecking ball of emotions, and that you thought you were ready for something, but you weren't. So I have two questions about yours. So this is now people kind of know a brief idea of who you are. I have two questions here. The first one is, how are you so attuned to how you felt all those years ago? So how do you know that these are the things that you felt, which leads me to believe that you have a high emotional quotient, or you know yourself pretty well. And my second question is, given all of that, and for what's to come in the show, is what do you think people will be able to take away from this show so they can benefit?
Good questions. Okay, can I ask you to repeat the first question, please?
Sure. I wanted to know how attuned you are with the feelings you felt at every stage of your life.
Okay.
Up till now.
Okay. Attuned, you mean aware of these feelings that are driving my life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I never was. I was a little boy who always stayed a little boy. Not that being a little boy is not good. It's wonderful to be playful. It's wonderful to bring out the innocence in you. At the same time, we're no longer little boys, we're adults. And I didn't see that way. Growing up at home, school, and then uni, you mentioned I didn't do great at work as well. And I don't see that I didn't do great, because good or bad have so many different definitions, you know? I see that what happened and it led me to where I am right now. And I'm very grateful for it. And I just recently have began to become attuned to my emotions. When I went to Australia in 2019, I said I got hit by a wrecking ball of emotions. So, you know, when someone, I mean, let's say some of us may think we can do something, and when we're put in that situation, we're not who we thought we are. And growing up, I created a story in my mind about who I am. My actions did not match that story. And I was lying to myself, and I was blind to it too. Not all the time. So when I went to Australia and I got hit, I went into a downward spiral, and I couldn't accept. And I needed that control of that story in my head, which I had back in Abu Dhabi, because things were easy, financially speaking. And then in Australia, everything hit the fan. So anyway, I stayed in Australia for about a year and a bit. And I came back here to Lebanon 4 months ago. And I was still not attuned. I was still rejecting that idea of who I really was and these emotional drives, until I started meeting some good people along the way that confronted me, instead of being the coaches or therapists that would soothe you. You know what I mean? Because soothing and self-pity were strong points. And I mentioned that I had narcissistic figures in my life. And I tended to have these behavioral traits as well, along with codependent traits, depending on others and not depending on myself and being responsible for myself. So when I came here and I was confronted with my coaches and doctors, there was a massive flow of anger and sadness, but then there was this wonderful surrender. Surrender to these expectations and desires of who I wanted to be and who I thought I was. And my mentor tells me, you're nothing. Manakshi. Today, if all the bees in the world die, we won't be here in 2 years. If all the worms in the world die, this planet will go to shit. But if us as humans disappear, it'll flourish. At the same time, though, we are everything. How so? We're here to serve. We're here to make it a better place. And we serve by forgetting ourselves. And that's what I've come to learn. So to answer your second question, I don't know if I was scattered a little bit with my thoughts there. But to answer your second question, what do people want to take from this? I'd say don't let your past define you. I'd say we're here now. Some of us, and this is quoting actually a person I watched today on video, I can't remember his name. Some of us have been through traumatic events to get to where we are. Some of us have had financial hardships. Some of us have not been able to join the crowd. Some of us have fit in too much to the crowd to get to where we are now. What I'm trying to say here is, don't let now be ruined by before. Appreciate this, appreciate where you've gotten to, appreciate what you've done, but don't let it define you. Because as Alan Watts says, you're under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. And if people are going to see that change in you, which they will, and it's going to be very hard to accept, even if it's a good change, trust that in time, you'll find those people that are for you. Or in time, those people that are with you now will understand. And know that when you're doing something to benefit others, you're serving, you've got the right attitude, and at the same time, you're enjoying and exploring your life, you got nothing to worry about.
It's I want to say that it's very difficult things to do what we are saying right now, and that's why in my next questions I obviously want to go a bit more specific onto these. But I think that's, like I'm kind of going through this. For example, if I want to relate a bit to the audience, I'm kind of going through a situation where I have to trust that the decisions that I made now will be better. So for example, you decide let's say you have a few people in your life that will cause or give you negative energy, and you make a decision to cut them out. The reason, or you have been in the situation for a long time, therefore you are afraid to leave it. So you try to keep it going and you keep pushing it. And then one day you might make a decision to cut out that negative energy. And I guess you have to trust that this is the right decision that you made for yourself. And, it's always difficult to cross this point. And it also applies to, it's whether it's a relationship that you feel that you cannot be in, whether it's a job that you don't like, or a group of friends that you cannot be within, or even your current between you and yourself, which by the way is the most important thing. If you look at yourself in the mirror and you say to yourself, this is not who I want to be, for whatever reason, maybe you've made the mistake, you're not happy with yourself, or you keep putting yourself down, or you just feel bad about a lot of things. If you say, you look yourself in the mirror, which is the most important thing, and you say, I am not happy with this, I think this is the most easiest change you can make, because I think with friends or with relationships or with a job, there's always, what will the other person think? Some people are good at just saying, I'm just going to leave this. But I think the easiest change you can make is look at yourself in the mirror, because you're only going to talk to yourself. You're only gonna, tell yourself, you just look at yourself in the mirror and say, I don't want you anymore to be like this. I'm going to change. I think that's the easiest thing. If you think about it, that's the easiest thing, because if you're somebody who cares about what other people think, then changing yourself should not be an issue.
That's a very good point there. And it is easy to look at yourself and say, I don't want to be that person anymore, because there's no one else going to think about what you're still saying. But at the same time, you got to have a reason. Why do you want to change?
Of course, I'm only saying this because I tend to, whenever other people are involved in, for example, decisions that I would make or I want to make, I tend to, it's part of us, obviously, or part of some people's natures. They tend to care a lot about what somebody might think or care about their feelings or
Mhm.
care about the impact. When it comes to yourself, if you're not happy with where you are, I think it's the easiest thing that you could do is to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm not happy with this, and I'm going to make this change. Because then you're not really caring, you're not worried about other people, what they're thinking. You're just going to change yourself.
Mhm.
That's what I mean. So thank you for answering this. I know it was a very tough question. And as we move forward, I want you to be, of course, under your own, wherever you feel comfortable sharing. But I want you to be a bit more specific with some of the things that either have happened to you, so we can, we can have a
Sure.
fuller idea, and we can take from there. We can take the learnings from there.
Sure. I'm
You
glad you
were,
bring that up.
yeah.
I tend to get general about things and not specify, but please hit me with anything you got.
Yeah, I don't want this to be a show where we're talking about all these philosophical things and they're all up in the air, like a podcast of people saying
Fair
nothing.
enough.
I want us
Fair enough.
to be very specific. I'm sure that you want to
Fair enough.
help others as well. So having them listen to, and I'm gonna get to this in one of the questions, but I'm sure you want people to leave this having learned or maybe make a change in their life. I want that too.
Sure.
So Basil, you're working as a life coach now, or are you not a
Mhm.
life coach yet? What's the deal?
I wouldn't call myself a life coach. I'm a personal coach. I help people try to get better. Life coach it's a big name.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And I have some tough questions before we get into the life
Sure.
coach idea. Through all your hardships, your experiences, the terrible experiences that you've been through, the way you are now, and what you do to help others, is that not? This is a bit philosophical, but you can specify.
Okay.
Is that not a selfish act? And what I mean is, so altruism. I was trying to do a bit of research actually for the show to try to find, because I actually learned it in university, and I'm not sure if it's Auguste Comte
Okay.
who said that, but basically who coined the term. He coined the term altruism. Is that if you, let's say you're walking down the street and you see maybe a homeless person, you give them something, food maybe, or some money. It's all the classic example, right?
Mm.
You're helping that person, but in another way, you're kind of doing that because you want to feel good
Help yourself.
inside. Yeah, you want to feel good inside. And I actually read another funny story of Abraham Lincoln with his good friend. They were through my research, I found it was very funny story. They were on a coach and they see a mother pig which was
Mm.
squealing because its piglets were
Mm.
stuck in the mud.
Mhm.
So he asks the coach driver to stop. The coach driver says if the other person accepts, and his friend accepted. So Abraham Lincoln got off the coach. He picked up the piglets one by one and put them obviously next to the mother. And his
Mhm.
friend was like, I mean, isn't that the most selfish act that you could do? And Abraham Lincoln
Mhm.
said, well, yes, because can you imagine now if we continue throughout this day, I will never have peace of mind thinking what's going
Mhm.
to happen to the in that situation. And I will be the first one to say that I'm exactly like that. I will spend the rest of the day or whatever just thinking that how can I not help this person because I want peace of mind. Whether peace of mind is selfishness or not, this is another discussion. But that's my question to you is
Okay.
doing what
So
you
it
do.
goes both ways, Adi.
Okay.
It goes both ways, Adi. I actually watched one of your previous podcasts with a lady, and she also mentioned, people help others to feel good about themselves. And
Wow, you went far back. That's good.
I like to also know who I'm talking to. So can you define selfish for me? Or
Well,
what we see selfish as?
that's a very good question, I think. Selfish, it's more about you doing something for yourself
Hmm.
because you're expecting a return, whether it's a
So the intention,
yeah.
sorry to cut you off there. So the intention is doing it for yourself, correct?
Then, well, I see where you're getting at. Yes, it's kind of like you're doing it for yourself because you want to feel, for example, the peace of mind example.
Hmm.
I want to do that to have peace of mind. So I'm in a way I'm selfish because I'm doing that for peace of mind. And by all means, I think we should probably challenge the concept of selfishness because we are brought up with that being super negative, also like a super negative thing.
Yeah.
And then now we're in this whole, oh, it's fine to be selfish. It's fine to do stuff for yourself and all this kind of stuff. So somebody give us the answer, please. But yeah, go ahead.
So okay, so before we get into the term selfish, I just asked it just to understand a little bit more what you see selfish as. So I'll give you a personal example. When I started this job, this coaching job, I still wasn't happy with myself. And I always felt like I want to help people, I want to do good, I want to do good, I want to help people. And I started helping people. And I noticed that I'm helping them for gratification. And I'm not afraid to say that here online. Because that's the truth. I noticed I was helping these people so I can feel good. Oh yeah, I helped someone, you know? And then I changed my view of it to change me as well. I said to myself, before I go into any session, I tell myself, my intention here is to serve this person and nothing else. I'm not here to serve myself. I'm here to serve this person. At the same time, when I do serve them, when I'm there for them, forget the gratification that I'm getting, which I try to take away. This also creates an image in me that, oh, I'm selfless. I'm serving, So it's a kind of a loop that you want to know how you get out of it, how you serve and just serve and not be selfish. And how do I help myself with this? So in my opinion, when you have the intention to be there for someone, whatever you get from it, if you get something from it, gratification, validation, attention, selfish, whatever you want to call it, okay, no problem. As long as that's not your goal. Your end goal is to help this person help themselves. مش أنا جاي أساعدك to pamper you, to spoon feed you. No. My intention here is to serve. I'll give you an example with your significant other. When you're there to serve them, like we mentioned before, right? Sometimes we serve and we expect to be served. And that expectation, that feeling is going to come up, Ali, with work or with your significant other. When it comes up, it depends on what you do to respond to this feeling. You can sit with it. You sit with this feeling. It's here. Okay, I'm going to let it pass. I'm not going to succumb to it. If it's helping me, it's helping me. Sure. I don't feel like we need to create put a heavy load on ourselves from this, as long as you know your intention. And sometimes we don't. Sometimes we think we know our intention, but we don't. Until someone wakes you up and tells you, hey, you're doing this for you, you're not doing this for anyone else.
It's a very difficult process
Yeah.
to, I think, understand that. I think for let's say maybe doctors, healthcare workers in general, of course, there is a side to it, which is their own personal benefit to advance in their career, to learn more, to know how to do different procedures, to be better at this type of surgery, etc., etc. But maybe their initial, like the Hippocratic oath, you know, the beginning, the base of it is that you will help someone no matter who they are. This is your job, which is the Hippocratic oath. Is you take it as a doctor, a healthcare worker. It is your sworn duty to help someone, no matter what. But with with the rest of us, I think there is no. I think yes, you can. What you said at the beginning is assume or say to yourself that my end goal is to help this person. My intention is to help this person. They can help themselves. But I think you can't not help feel something or feel good that you help that person. And this is, I think, I don't want to turn this into a, philosophy class, but I think this is the open question that whether that's right, that's wrong, who cares? Maybe that makes us all better if we all help each other, or you can work, you can continue to live your life as really just caring about yourself, because that seems to work. That seems to work as well. Whether you leave a trail of ashes in your wake, if you look at it, I'm playing the other side here. People can do that, and they can go far places, and they can be very, very good in everything that they do. And I think it's also wrong to say that they are wrong, because they're taking care of themselves. So, yeah, that's kind of like my follow.
Yeah, it's difficult to have a definitive answer, like I feel like we tend to see ourselves as gaining something, someone else gaining something, when we can like also help ourselves and others by saying like, okay, I'm human and that person's human. I'm there for this human, and if by being there for this human, it's going to be there for myself, then so be it.
Yeah. Next question is, what was the inflection point in your life that caused you to make these drastic changes? Was it Australia? Was it just the revelation of everything that you've been through? Or was there like I like to ask people if there was a one moment in their lives that caused them to change.
Okay. I see it as a few moments put together, not one, for me at least. Australia was a moment. It changed me in some ways, not completely drastically. It wasn't a switch. Coming here changed me as well a little bit. And the most thing that helped me out was confronting myself. There's this saying, and I also don't want to get into very philosophical, but there's a saying that says, by Carl Jung, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life, and you'll call it fate. So it's just like life tends to give you again and again and again and again and again until you wake up and go like, this is happening again. No, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm taking this other route. So that's why, like I'm saying, it's just different steps. There's not one specific point. Do you want to know those different steps? Like in a specific?
Well, I would say just tell me what's maybe the top moment where you were sitting in yourself and you said, I'm done. I'm done with this.
It wasn't long ago. I was with my coach. I get coached too. So I was with my coach, and I told him, I have expectations, I like control in these areas, I like this and that. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, you're a narcissist. And I looked at him like, excuse me? He's like, you have narcissistic behavioral traits, Basil, and you're borderline going to become an abuser. The abused becomes the abuser, usually. And he's like, it's your decision. You want to take that path, take it. You want to take this other path, you can take it. It's yours. And I was scared shitless. I was terrified inside that I am this person. And I knew it. He woke me up and I knew, I had no doubt. I had nothing to say, to be defensive about. And since that day, every day, I do my very best not to be that. I'm not going to tell you I am or I'm not. It's a process.
Well,
So that's
the
it.
first step is acceptance, I guess, and also realization or knowing what the problem is. Obviously, you cannot solve your problem if you don't know what that is.
Mm-hmm. It's acceptance, and you can add to it a bit of forgiveness as well. And
correct.
I don't know if I'm at the point where I forgive myself, but I'm adding to it forgiveness, for example, for my father. You know,
yeah.
You usually become what you don't like.
Yeah.
At least for me.
So what did you feel in those moments, or like say that moment with your coach? Like what was was that a feeling of despair? Was it feeling like slap myself, need to wake up? What did you feel in that down moment? Internally.
I felt like I felt afraid, in despair, especially that I may have manipulated others. I may have caused harm to others by thinking of me and what I want when I want it. And I also felt despair for the lack of courage I felt at that moment to actually change. Like the first words I uttered from my mouth to my coach was, please help me. I don't know what to do. And I don't feel like I have the courage to do it. And I don't want to go on like this. Not for me, for others. I don't want to do this to others. And if this is going to happen, if I can't move forward, I want to separate myself from everyone. And that's what I felt.
Interesting. Yeah, because you were mentioning even before that you did not have a defense, like you didn't have anything to say that, no, I'm not like this, or that's not true, or, you know, you were saying that earlier.
Yeah.
That when he mentioned that, you were kind of like, oh, yeah, this is the...
yeah, because
he's right.
He's right, yes, because I've always been a smart talker. I've always known how to get my way with talking. And I forgive myself. I don't judge myself because as a child, I had to do that. I knew nothing better. But that sticks with us moving forwards. And we don't notice. We think that's us, you know? So yeah, at that point, I had no words. As good as I am with words, I had no words to do anything, to say anything.
It's very interesting, man. And thank you for sharing that that moment. It's quite very significant, I want to say. Very significant. And talking about 2020, you were saying that this was a year of your self-discovery. I want to ask you a different, like a challenge question here. Okay, it's a bit of a challenge question.
May I comment just before you ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
Self-discovery isn't La La Land. Self-discovery is going like, oh, fuck, that's who I am? Shit, fuck, no, screams, cries. That's self-discovery. It's not like, oh, okay, hey,
I completely agree. I'm not. Thank God that was not my question. Um,
Okay.
that was not my question. My question was more similar. Well, it's a challenge question. It's like,
Sure.
uh, are you not saying that it was a self discovery time because simply it's for once in the recent human history where people were able to slow down? Like I would come and tell
Mm,
you, well, okay, if you didn't have this pandemic, would you still be the same? You know, you wouldn't even
mm.
have had the self discovery. So,
It's got nothing to do with the pandemic.
okay.
The pandemic has a lot to do with others, maybe. If I was still comfy in my parents' house, money coming in, whatever, and pandemic happened, I'd still be the same person, you know? But when you're forced against a wall, you got nothing else. That's what forces you to change. Psychology says that change comes after massive defeat, after you hit rock bottom. That's when you decide, no more. Not when things are good. And the pandemic could have helped people with slowing down, with losing their jobs, and I'm not downplaying anyone here. I can't imagine how difficult it would be to go through something like that. Um, so yeah, it can help others. For me, it wasn't really the case because I was still okay despite the pandemic. Other shit hit the fan with me.
Yeah, yeah. I ask that because it could be a driver, which is not wrong, but
Mm,
it could be a driver to either learn new skills or to make a change in your life. And personally, it it has helped me to learn more about to learn some new skills. I want to say to take
mm,
control of a few more things. Um,
mm,
for example, whether it's the show or a few things in my life financially, for example, that kind of stuff. So I
mm.
won't deny that it has. I was just
Yeah,
wondering because you kind of highlighted that year as your year of self discovery.
yeah. So with the pandemic, like there's many people that built on their skills, like you're saying, figure out some stuff, organized, which was good. It's wonderful. Just for me, it was I couldn't build on or do because I was in a state emotionally, mentally where I was lost, and that was it. Actually, maybe helped with not having to meet people outside, not having to go in to work in front of people. So I had that time for myself. So yes, it did help in some way.
Yeah. Okay. With all your different skills that you mentioned, you use like as a life coach.
Yeah.
How do you use those skills to help others? Like, do you follow the same process with every person, or
No.
is there like a discovery
Uh,
process? Okay.
so there's a foundation that I use, um, and it's the skill that I learned, which is a listening skill instead of talking. So some people just need to be heard and seen, okay, to get out of what they're in. Some people need to be confronted. It depends. So I try to listen to what this person says, as in not just the story, but the words they're using, you know? And I really, really listen. And I use this tactic where I motivate them to change with their own ideas and
Mm,
words, because the best ideas for that person come from them, not from me. I'm not going to suggest anything new to them, you know? It's like I try to unwind their thoughts, make it clearer for them, and help them see what they're not seeing and to be seen themselves.
And is this related somehow to, you mentioned at the end of your, when I asked you, or I sent you that email with the questions, you ended it by saying, speaking the truth and being vulnerable is a way for someone to not lose themselves. Is that a part of your method? Is that part of the way that you approach with people? Do you ask them to, because people might have built constructs where if they show weakness, then this is wrong. Or if maybe they're used to lying, this is wrong.
Okay.
It is wrong, but I'm saying
Yes.
they're used to lying. That speaking the truth is maybe not the best approach. But explain how is it related to your method, and how does that someone realize that they don't lose themselves.
Okay. Sometimes, this is me personally, I don't mean to be projecting on others, but sometimes we don't even know that we're not speaking the truth because of how much we've lied to ourselves. You know what I mean? And at the same time, what I do my best to do all the time with my different sessions is I try to just create that safe space for them. Because if someone doesn't feel safe, they're not going to be vulnerable. They're not going to say stuff. They're not going to blurt out stuff that they didn't expect to blurt out. And they didn't even know themselves. So it's just a safe space, man. Trust, building trust. And the best way to build trust is to help the other person see this person, that's me, for example, in front of them, it's the same as them. So there's this saying, I think Tony Robbins says it, I'm not sure. People want to be like people who are like them or who they want to be like. Okay? And vice versa. So what I do my best to do is I listen. I let them speak. And when they do speak, I rephrase, I summarize what they've said in a more solid manner rather than scattered. So I'm taking notes, I can see what they're doing. I try to map out where they're thinking, what's going on with them. And I help them, so I speak back to them in their language. I'm no different than them. Because this session is not about me telling them about me or me telling them about other stuff. Me telling them about them, what they're saying, what they're doing, so they can see it themselves. And once you map it out for them like that, they get to understand, they see it, and then some harsh truths come in. My coaching sessions aren't all happy and dandy,
Yeah.
There's a lot of confrontation, there's a lot of other stuff.
This method of visualizing your maybe hardships or just visualizing anything that you want, I do agree with that. I don't agree with just sitting and chatting only. You can do that, and your method, I think, is of listening and stuff. Okay, that's great. But I think then writing it down or asking somebody to write it down, asking your client to write it down is also very important, because once you, maybe I'm saying this because I'm
they're always taking notes.
Okay. Because I think the simple act of writing something down, and also Tony Robbins said that, the actual practice of actually writing it down, even if you're not going to look at it later, it will come to your mind, but also visualizing that, for example, I have an issue with, let's say, I don't show my emotion properly, for example, write it down. I have to be clear with my emotions. Or for example, I'm not happy with a specific person. And you're just saying that in your mind. Write it down. I am not happy with person X. I think that changes a lot of people's perspectives in how to solve the problem. Because if you apply it, let's say apply it to a home environment, right? Let's say the bed is not made, right? But the bed is not made. You're gonna make it. But you wouldn't have done that had you not seen it. So I think maybe that's the same way you can apply to that. Write something down. If you look at it and you say, yeah, that's true, that's a problem I need to solve. and then it's a
Mhm.
task on your list now. And I think when it gets to your task, your list of tasks, your to-do list of the day, that's when you've made it. I think then that's when it becomes part of your daily routine, which will allow you to change your thought process.
Absolutely. You're very right about writing things down. One, to take it in, and two, also to see it in front of you. If you, what you don't see, you can't change. And with my sessions, for example, I provide them with something that I take from the holistic psychologist online. It's called the Future Self Journal. So in the session, they write down what they need to write down, what any realizations, what they're seeing. And what happens here is I give them the future self journal, and they write down, okay, what am I thinking? What emotion comes up with this thought? What behavior do I do? Okay, so I'm thinking, oh, my bed's a mess. I never clean my bed. What's the emotion? Anger, fear, sadness, whatever it is. What's the behavior? I don't do my bed. Okay, 3 steps. And then you do the next 3 steps. What's the new you gonna do? The more you write that, like you're saying, the more it gets onto your to-do list, the more you tick it off and tick it off and tick it off, and it becomes a habit. The trick here is to do one thing every 30 days. It takes 21 to 30 days to create a new habit. So you do one thing. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. You want to honor yourself as well, knowing that who you are now may not be able to start with a 20-kilometer run. No, you want to run for 20 meters, and then next day add 5, next day add 5.
When I asked you for a picture of yourself, you had a very
Mm-hmm.
interesting answer. You said that you don't have many. And
Mm-hmm.
from this response, I kind of realized a few things. I realized that you're somebody who doesn't care about missing out. So if you miss out on something, you don't care. You prefer the simple things in life, and you look inwards about fixing yourself. Is this a correct observation?
I love the way you put it. You should be a therapist yourself, بصراحة عليا.
Well,
Um,
I don't think I go there yet. Okay.
I wasn't always like that. I
Oh,
was
for
someone
sure.
who really, yeah, like, oh my God, I need to be in 100,000 places at once. I have to do 10 things at once. Now it's like, I'm here. I don't need to pick up the phone and take a picture. I'm looking at it with my eyes. Let it nourish my soul.
Hmm. I just noticed that because I even when I asked you again, please send me a photo in landscape, you're like, this is the only one I have, and it just reaffirmed to me that it doesn't matter if you've missed a moment, or it doesn't matter if you don't have a photo or something. And I'm just saying that because also part of me is in contrast. I like to take photos, I like to capture moments, I like to
Mm-hmm.
have these memories, I like to go back and remember. Sometimes it's probably a bad thing because it's part of your brain that lives in the past. That's I'm just saying because part of your
Mm-hmm.
brain lives in the past, but I like to remember these nice moments because they give me happiness. And
Can I tell you a secret?
tell me.
I wish I could have you there with me in those moments, because I always want someone to take a picture of that moment. I just don't want to take it myself,
Oh, okay,
you know,
fine. Okay, fair
because I
enough.
like looking back too.
Okay, nice, fair enough. Fair enough. In the future, maybe. um
Hopefully.
Hopefully. um and that will lead me to the final kind of question about this whole everything that we've been discussing is, what do you think about the instant gratification culture right now? And before even you even answer, I am a victim of that. i
We all are.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'll answer you with what my mentor has told me. Okay. And just to let people know, in case they want validation behind who my mentor is, he's a doctor, he's a president of a few universities here and there, the departments of psychology, and he specializes in Gestalt psychology. Okay. He says we have the animal brain and the human brain. Okay? If you look back, ancient Egypt, which animal did they have? The cat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me people think they worship the cat, yes? Okay. He says on the contrary. He says they had the cat next to them to remind them that they were in control of their animal brain and they were in their human brain. So if I were to explain the animal brain and human brain, cavemen, always anxious, always fearful, always ready. Yalla, now, okay, I'm gonna get this, I'm gonna kill this, I'm gonna eat it, I'm gonna do this for me. Why? Because back in the day, we're humans. We didn't have teeth like lions do. We didn't have bodies like gorillas do. You know what I mean? Humans, what do we have except for this impulse, this fight, flight, freeze? Okay, and that's the animal brain, and that's where instant gratification comes from. Okay, the human brain knows the difference between what's really dangerous and what's not. Knows the difference between instant gratification and an outcome later on with these negative emotions along the way. So we have like a positive emotional appreciation and a negative emotional appreciation, right? Positive emotional appreciation comes from this animal brain, instant gratification. Okay, I ate a full cake. Right now I feel positive. In an hour or two, I'm gonna feel like shit. You know what I mean? Not that I don't like eating full cakes. However, so for us to move from the animal brain to the human brain, we could seek help. We could also at the same time know that, say you want to get a degree. You want to get a degree so you can get a job. Okay. You look at this degree, I don't want to do this degree. It's hard. You do the first subject, it's done. The second is done. You're in your fourth semester already. You go like, shit, how'd that pass so quickly? And you're done with it. And what's the outcome from all those negative emotional things along the way? You have a degree in your hand.
Yeah.
The animal brain wants to buy the degree, like they do in Lebanon sometimes. I won't name names. You know what I mean?
It's very interesting. I never, thought of it that way, that it came from even this, from your mentor. It goes back to even that, like the difference between the brain mechanism. I didn't think of it that way. Or at least I had thought it's just simply because they have to get it now because it's part of the survival. But it's somehow weaved
Survival is part of animal brain.
Yeah, exactly. And it's now somehow weaved into just our current cultures. It just happened to me like today. There's a connection that I'm missing for a new device that I got. I went online. I need to find out. I need to get it now because it's gonna take a few days to arrive. So I need to have it now to make sure that I have it as part of the kit. So it was just something that happened.
And it's so easy to access that instant gratification nowadays.
Exactly. So Basil, I want to switch this around a bit and give you the floor, since you're an advocate of communication. How about you steer the conversation for a while? Maybe go ahead and ask me, one or two questions here and there.
Nice turn of events.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
So you mentioned earlier that you were in events. You're an event planner. And you've got this podcast challenging people on what they do, who they are, and how things are. At the same time, I noticed that there is also that playful boy in you with gaming and whatnot, based on what I see behind you. So how do you get into event planning, and how do you also decide to take on this type of podcast?
Um, it's a good question. The way I entered in events was kind of like a mistake, I guess. It
Mm-hmm.
was just, right time, right time, right place. I started my career after graduating. I started my career in a different company, of
Mm-hmm.
which I had met two important people. One of them was not impactful to my life, but one was uh, someone who, somebody that you know from afar, but you know that whenever they come into your life, they really give you good impact, and they're very
Mm-hmm.
smart, and you don't talk to them as much in your life, but whenever they do, it's a very meaningful and important thing. And I didn't end up staying in that company. It was through my father that there was this contact that we knew in events,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how I started. And actually, it was very different than what I studied, which is economics. So
Mm-hmm.
I started an internship in doing, in working in a company which I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know anything, and I would spend sometimes hours, a day, hoping something would happen,
Mm-hmm.
or to do something. And it's part of, starting on a new job and all that stuff. It's nothing new. And that's how I started. And from there, things start to evolve. You start getting into you personally start to speak up more. You start to challenge yourself more, take on more responsibilities. And
Mm-hmm.
that from there, the rest of it is kind of history. I mean, it was more of like, I need to continue challenging myself, try to get better. I did leave for a while to go study and come back. And when I came
Mm-hmm.
back, actually, that was my second, you know, tenure working in events, and that was which is the current chapter that I'm in right now, and that's where I actually met my co-founder, who, to cut the long story short, in a way, is he kind of, I want to say, was the catalyst to allow me to create such a
Mm-hmm.
show. And we did not
Mm-hmm.
want to restrict the type of people that we would interview. Or
Mm-hmm.
rather, the show is now changing to the fact that you have shows talking about celebrities and famous people, and sort
Mm-hmm.
of not having a show where, and I say show because those with celebrities and stuff, it is a show, but having a show where you can have the realism of a conversation in the spotlight of a show, but
Mm-hmm.
and to give people the chance to speak about their experiences. The show is now evolving, from where it was before, that, why do you have to be famous to be interesting, to more of, let's give people the chance, just because when you look at the list of people that are, have been on and will be on in the future, that this is a
Mm-hmm.
place that it's empowering, it's always been what we've set out to do, is empowering the importance of speech, the importance of conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and to give people the chance to, uh, to 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 share their story. And I just want to make this a bit clear. I don't like to challenge people for the sake of challenging them. I want to challenge people because I want them to challenge themselves, but to also realize, or maybe find that, that they have the answer within themselves, not to question themselves, but they have the answer, that they can respond to this challenge, and
Mm-hmm.
they can further advance what they're trying to do. And I would like others who may be in the same position, or feel like what we started talking about at the beginning of the show, is they feel that they may not have any skills, or they may feel that they cannot go somewhere because of themselves, that they are the only obstacle standing in their own way, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And to add to that, the reason I'm doing that also is because I was like that. You know, I
Okay.
couldn't. Yeah, I also couldn't imagine that I would be. It's not the main reason that I'm doing this, but the main reason was I always wanted to create content as well, something that I could share, and I have this. I had a talent that I want to utilize, but
Mm-hmm.
I was in a position where I could just, I would just depend or not learn or just be there,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to take control as well, um,
Mm-hmm.
and show others that no matter from where you start, you can get the required skills and push yourself, of course, within limits. I hope that answers your question.
It does answer my question. I'd like to comment on it if you don't mind. Um, so firstly, you said you graduated economics degree and then went into event planning. That must have been maybe a form of like, why are we in this system in some way? Like, did you ask yourself that, or you just like, it's okay, just going with the flow?
I always ask myself that,
Okay.
and I used to ask myself that a lot before, and people would say,
Okay.
yeah, you never work in what you study. It's not true. I wanted to actually work in economics. I wanted to work for, let's say, an NGO. I wanted to work with the UN, with large, bodies that were helping people use my skills. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, going with the flow is also good, and just getting the experience that you need to get to be in the corporate world is very good skills to
Mm-hmm.
have, and to get the skills to be able to present, to be able to have a meeting with others, to be able to write a great
Mm-hmm.
email, to be able to negotiate
Mm-hmm.
contracts. These are all skills that maybe I would have learned them somewhere else, but I've learned how to organize, delegate,
Mm-hmm.
write contracts, negotiate, work
Mm-hmm.
with people, use your relationships with people
Mm-hmm.
to not simply get what you want, but for them to get what they want also. And I'm not talking about negotiation. I'm saying you can it's obviously, it's everything is a negotiation, but you can support.
Building connections.
Yeah, you can build a connection with somebody to tell them that, just help me now, and then I can help you later. We can work together on something else, and just building
Mm-hmm.
relationships of trust. Because in events, for example, a lot of it, a lot of it is also, no, not everything, but there's a lot of trust involved, and last minute things, and you have to sometimes scramble, and throughout all the stress and throughout all the blood rush and all this stuff, you have to find a way to have people who have your back, who can
Mm-hmm.
support and give you the kind of like support that you need when it comes to the point where you get a call and say this needs to be done tomorrow. And
Okay.
you need so a lot of the skills that comes along the way, and sometimes you see others, like I see my colleagues go through it and how they handle it, and you learn from
Mm-hmm.
that, and they teach you. And so there's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
um I think there is, when you can learn these skills, I wouldn't say that, okay, I should have worked in economics. I regardless still learned a lot of skills that, maybe I would have been different. But again, I can't be in two places at once, so
Mm-hmm.
i I don't know what I would have said if I was in the other position. And going back to what we talked about at the beginning, is I am where I am right now with the experience that I've gained, and it has helped me to do, whether to work on the show or to work on myself or to organize my life.
It shows a lot how it helped you organize the show, your life, and whatnot. The way you communicate here is um, very smart. At the same time, when you said before, when you challenge people, you challenge them not just to challenge them, but to uh, let them bring out the answer in themselves. So like, and you mentioned before that you wanted to work in NGOs, and you answered, it looks like you have a very strong humanitarian side of you. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you use that here on the show to bring out the best in the people that you're interviewing, which is wonderful.
I never expected it would be the case. I always thought that the only path was through work, believe it or not. But I thank you for that. It's a correct observation in some respects. I am selfish. I am selfish. I'm not afraid to
You
say
have all
that.
the right to be.
But I think that whether I'm speaking to people here on the show or whenever we have a chance to speak to the audience, I want them to leave having learned something, or they can benefit from it.
It's wonderful that you want them to leave and benefit. At the same time, you saying you're selfish. I think, Ali, we got to redefine the word selfish, because society has really like took a shit on it.
Yeah, indeed. Do you have more questions for me?
I'd like to sit and have coffee with you sometime in person and learn a little bit more. This was a therapy session for myself, and the way you're communicating as well, you present yourself really well, man, and I appreciate this time. So I'd love to like meet up in person. I know you're moving abroad maybe soon, and I'm not really there, but we can like always Zoom over a coffee.
Yeah, the time will come for sure.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your comments as well. And with that, my final question will be to you, Basil, is why did you decide to come on the show? Why did you decide to be a part of this? What's the reason?
One, a friend of mine told me about your show, and I was interested to see what a fellow Shweifati is doing, even though I didn't know you. And two, I watched your videos, and it was really nice, the way you're talking to people, the way you're just giving that space. And I'm a big advocate of giving someone the space to speak and to be seen and whatnot. And maybe that was also selfish of me. I wanted to come on and talk about me, but yeah, who cares? Like, I'd relax.
That's the space that I'm giving. So
absolutely, man, absolutely. Yeah. And also to support a fellow human, a fellow brother, or whatever you want to call it, because like I know how it is also going online and starting your thing and trying stuff out. So the more the merrier.
Well, thank you for that, Basil, and I appreciate that. It's some great observations, and with that, I want to say that we have reached the end of the show.
Awesome.
It's been an absolute it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Do you have any last words that you want to say?
It's been a pleasure, Ali, and thank you for this space. It's wonderful what you're doing, and keep at it. If you need anything, I'm here to support.
Thank you, Basil. Thank you. Guys, this has been an awesome chat with the one and only Basil Zahar. Zahar Coaching. Make sure you check him out on his new journey. This has been the Nobody's Famous podcast. You can find us on Anghami, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Radio Public, TuneIn, I don't know, everywhere, any favorite, Google Podcasts, anything. And you can watch the full episode on YouTube. Make sure you check out our emotions as we answer these questions. God knows there's a lot of them this time around. Make sure you check us out. This has been the Nobody's Famous podcast, signing off.